Woohoo!
Hey, it's nice to be back.
Good to be back. Yeah, we haven't. How long has it been now? It's been since before Christmas. That was our last show, wasn't it?
Too long. So how was your Christmas, and Happy New Year to you, Ben?
Happy New Year to you too. My Christmas was all right, thank you. Quiet one. Spent it here with the family. New Year's was a bit more agitated. Let's say I went up to Porto with a few friends of mine. Had a cracking time. Got to see the fireworks there. Just awesome. What about you, Carl?
What happens in Porto at New Year? Is everybody get on the bridge like they do at the São Pedro festival?
Some people get on the bridge. I chose to stay away from the bridge, kind of by the riverfront, get a nice view of it because all the fireworks pop up behind it.
Yeah,
and that was pretty spectacular.
Excellent. Well, it is great to be back. Let's see what we can do to help you find a home in Portugal in 2026. We were at your service in 2025. Let's see what we can do for you this year. Very patriotically having a sip on a super bock there, Ben. Part of our normal formula is to be sipping on a Portuguese wine. That's not a Portuguese wine, is it? But you're a super bock rather than a Sagrishman, are you? Or will you just lay your hands on whichever beer you can find?
Oh, God, I probably shouldn't be commenting on something so divisive, but yes, I am more of a super bock person rather than the Sagrish.
Are you? Okay.
Yes, and I have let down the home front today by forgetting to go to the supermarket and get myself a bottle of wine before the show.
Yes, not unnoticed, you beer drinker, you. Some of us are a little bit more refined with our fermented grapes here, and I'm going with the Good Morning Portugal Wine of the Week, which is sourced from my local wine merchant. Please support your local wine merchant if you can. I know there's some great deals at the supermarket, but if you can find a local wine merchant, they'll be really helpful to you, educating you as well. And I've got the Evidencia, which as soon as I finish my coffee, I'm going to have a sip on that and tell you about it. But we like a Dow, don't we? A Dow Red.
We do love a Dow. Speaking of the Dow, I was there a couple of days ago looking at a property in that region. And again, fingers crossed that we could get that on the show at some point as well, because it's pretty fantastic.
Very good.
Its own vineyard and everything. Very romantic.
Has it? Okay, so you could one day be drinking some of the wine made there, having got to know the buyers of this place you're speaking of.
Fingers crossed. I did get the owners were generous enough to send me home with a bottle as well, which was quite nice.
Really? Excellent stuff. Okay, good. That's one of the perks of the job, isn't it? Fantastic.
100%.
Okay. Tonight, we're going to ease our way gently into the new year. We've got a little bit of industry news, and we've also, Ben's prepared a little bit of a presentation for you. If you're in any way confused about the presidential race and what might be likely to happen, I have a bit of commentary from Ben on who perhaps is the most real estate and entrepreneurially supportive of the presidents. I mean, that's not their brief necessarily, but wouldn't it be great to have somebody who was very focused in terms of Portugal's outward reputation and global standing?
It would be nice to have someone who's a bit more, let's say, entrepreneurial run for presidency here. But the goal of this segment today is I'd like to just do a little brief overview of who the top contenders are for president of Portugal currently, because there seems to be a lot of confusion in the expat community of who represents what party, what do these people stand for, what does it mean for us, and more importantly, seeing as we're a real estate show, what does it mean for the housing market as well? We've got to sneak that in there somehow. So the goal today would be try present a neutral kind of, this party means this means this, this means this.
Does that mean you do have a favourite?
I do, but I'm not brave enough to go out online and start.
Oh, really?
My political allegiances. No, that would kind of be. I see that sort of shooting myself in the foot. Again, anyone that's had the displeasure of going out for a drink with me knows that I'm very vocal about politics when in person. But to go out online and state my opinion seems like it would be a step backwards rather than a step forwards for myself.
See if you can draw Ben on this whilst we're here this evening for about 30 minutes. And maybe if you don't catch this live, guess in the comments which way Ben is leaning. So back to the presidential runners and riders and a decoder, really, an explanation from Ben, who's grown up here in Portugal, about how that works and who you might favour in a fairly neutral way. And I'll finish tonight with a property. This is from some old friends, actually. Pure Portugal are a website an agency that specialises in a particular kind of property, which a lot of people, I think, are maybe feeling a little bit in need of at the moment. The off-grid in the middle of nowhere. If everything's getting to you and you want to go and live in the middle of nowhere, I've got a cracking property, a move-in ready, beautiful and unique renovated granite house with independent studio garage and 1.65 hectares, thoughtfully designed land with plenty of room to grow your own food. There's an evergreen garden. There's a vineyard here. There's a fertile, gentle slope. Who doesn't like one of those? There's a flat bottom valley. And there's all sorts of mineral-rich soil in which you can grow. And apparently it's a great haven for bird lovers, and it has its own water as well. So a good off-grid property, the kind of which Pure Portugal specialise in. And they were great friends to me when I first was having a look at Portugal back in 2007, actually. And I will be interviewing Sophie, one of the founders of Pure Portugal, in due course as well. I'm not sure being interviewed live on a live stream is her thing. So it may be more of a print form or a blog, but really looking forward to talking to Sophie, who's got an amazing history here in Portugal and started up Pure Portugal. We'll back to that later. I think you've got a bit of industry news for us to get things going, Ben.
Yes, so for people that might be first-time viewers, we tend to kick off the show with just a little bit of industry news, what's been happening this week or this month. Well, for first show of the year, what's been happening this year. So a little summary: Portugal house prices keep rising. The market keeps growing. It grew about 17.7% by the end of Q3 last year. So we're seeing, again, a strong narrative of good growth, good developments happening, lots of prices going up. You can interpret that as you will. Something that came out a bit more recently, though, because that last bit we have commented on before in the show, is that, sorry, I got it written down here somewhere on my side notes. Bank valuations hit a record high now. So their bank is valuing land throughout Portugal on average about £2,000 per square meter, which is one of the more expensive ones in Europe too. So what does that mean? You know, it's another indicator of strong growth. It's another indicator, if you have an older property, for instance, it might be a good idea to get it reevaluated and see how much it's worth to discount on your capital gains as well. Wink, wink. You didn't hear that from me, though.
Brilliant. What else have we got?
And another one, which is really my last bit here, which is very optimistic, is the Young Buyers Tax Exemption Scheme is proven extremely effective. So one of the there's quite a few schemes here in Portugal. For younger buyers, that being under 35. The main one and the strongest one, I'd say, is an IMT exemption. For those of you who don't know, IMT here in Portugal, it's a single-time tax you pay when you buy a house here. It means it's property transfer tax. So you're moving from one house to another, usually we're talking about less than 20% on average. So probably 12, but it's a single bit. You only pay it once. It's not a monthly thing. And if you're under 35, you're exempt from it. And we've seen a record increase on young people taking on this program. Got about 70,000 applicants this year.
Very good. Excellent. I mean, it's right, isn't it, that something is done for younger people, younger buyers to approach and break up this awful housing crisis in Portugal. So this is quite a good move. I think I agree.
Oh, sorry. It's a great first step. It's a great incentive to get young people on the property ladder here in Portugal, being exempt from, let's face it, one of the heavier taxes when you're buying a house here in Portugal, because compared to the international market, Portugal's got very low stamp duty. The taxes you pay annually for your property, your EMI here, are also quite low. Your IMT, which again, it's not something you pay monthly or yearly, it's something you pay in one go. That's still pretty high though.
There's somebody was telling me about, and you may have talked about this before as well, the rebate on that. If you're renovating or bringing your property up to an energy standard as well, you can get an IMT reimbursement, I think. So check on the T's and C's on that. But that's quite good for people who've bought properties and they've raised the energy rating on that. I think there's some sort of not exactly cashback, but an incentive to have your IMT reimbursed to you if you make some good improvements energy-wise on your property. Can I do one more on this, Ben?
Yeah, please go ahead.
On the news, developers warn of risks without reforms, and they see EU plan as an opportunity. Portuguese Association of Real Estate Developers and Investors, the It's like HAPPY, the APPII, sometimes happy, sometimes not so much, views the new European Affordable Housing Plan as a historic opportunity, but warns Portugal risks missing out without accelerating reforms in licensing, taxation, urban planning, and land use to boost supply and absorb funds. What might they be talking about? Is this when the EU comes up with some cracking ideas and Portugal doesn't move fast enough, Ben, possibly?
I think so. It's also a comment on, if we remember it was quite big on the show a few months ago, kind of early December. We were talking about Dan Jorgensen's great plan to
You were, weren't you?
fix
Yeah.
the
Yes,
Portugal housing market.
remember when you heard it first. Yeah.
It's been awfully quiet on that front, if I'm being honest. I haven't heard any major innovation from, not innovation, but any major outbreak from the EU since. But I do agree with what you said there. There definitely need to be reforms in licensing. We're currently dealing with supply and demand. The main reason why prices are so high in Portugal is supply and demand. The only real way to fix that is increasing supply, of course. And licensing plays a big part in that.
Yes, and Portugal, in a way, it would appear, takes some pleasure in thwarting the the heat of the EU's great ideas. This is what you should be doing. And Portugal kind of goes, well, yeah, but, we've got other things going on. We might not be able to deal with it that quickly. And, your passport thing at the airport, we tried to do it, but it didn't really work out. So we've had to revert to what we had before. And the car tax thing, going against EU policy and the free market and preferring to pay the fine. Portugal tends to do what it wants to do, right? In successive governments, rather than just, as it would appear from another direction, just doing whatever the EU says it must do. I guess when the incentive becomes great enough, like the loss of money and funding, that's when the action tends to happen. But Portugal seems to do its own thing to a large degree, and maybe that's a good thing. Right. Thank you for those news headlines. We'll do that every time we're on. A few news picks from the real estate industry, maybe a bit of architecture in there, anything to do with development and building here in Portugal, and the sales of homes, of course. And we're here to help you. So let us know how we can in the chat, if you will. Good to see you, Gemini, this evening. Thank you for being here. Good evening, everyone. Gary Austin. He found a 4-foot snake skin. It's not an easy thing to say that. You don't want to jumble those words up. But I think if you're scared about snakes moving to Portugal, you will find snakes occasionally, but nothing too lethal. Did you see the aforementioned, Ben? Have you been treated to Sid's cast, I think it's called?
I didn't. I think this must have been at the period of time when I was out the house. I was probably up in Porto or somewhere else.
Oh, okay, thankfully.
Thankfully, yeah. But on that, though, if I remember correctly, I think there's only one type of poisonous snake here in Portugal, so there isn't much to be worried about in that regard.
Poisonous, yeah. It's unlikely you will be killed by a snake in Portugal. Let's put it that way. There are things like Asian hornets that are a little bit more risky, and other things that are a little bit more lethal. So don't worry too much about snakes, but you might see them from time to time. So, Gary, any spottings of Sid? I know you found the evidence of his appearance and him living locally to you, but have you actually seen the man himself, Sid the Snake, there in central Portugal? Great information, Ben, from Peter this evening. And Portugal just ignores legislation, things like matriculation. Sid is doing his job. Haven't seen any mice for a long time. Wow. Okay. Well, that's one way of keeping the mice population down, is get yourself a snake. Ben, you'll be all right with an adder bite, but at Carl's age, it could be a bit dicey. All right, Peter, thank you very much. Cheers to all of you. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm into the Evidencia. Isn't that a lovely label as well on there with that lovely handprint?
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
It's the evidence. It's the evidence right there. Caught not just red-handed, but with a multicolored handprint, a little bit like the saucy umbrella handles behind me. I have seen Sid. Last spotting was when he was a wee lad, when he was only a foot long. Now he's quadrupled in size. It must be all those lovely juicy mice that he's feasting upon. Right, you're gonna break down how it works with the presidency or the presidential race here in Portugal, Ben. If it's of any help at all. Yeah.
Before we get into that, though.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was hoping to get a small review of your wine before we get into that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me just
a bit of what the notes are.
I'm not going to be spitting it out.
No. I'd offer to do the same with my beer, but there's very little point in that, isn't there? I think everyone in Portugal has had a super bock at least once.
I think they have. Not entirely memorable. It's more like it's a really good way of slaking your thirst, isn't it, on a hot day? But I'm not sure it's not
Nail on
memorable
the
for
head
its taste, really, is it?
It's a
not about
great
taste.
summer beer. It's a magnificent, refreshing summer beer. And
Yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah. Roll on those days when we can enjoy it. I'm drinking Tinto Roriz, Torrica Nacional, and Alicante Boucher, the blend here for Adao DOC Evidencia, and it's delicious. It's really good. Sometimes the Dow wines can be a little bit risky. They're probably, most people's perception of Portuguese wines, you've got the Douro and the Alentejo, then you might have the Bairrada and the Dow just, coming in behind the big two, I think. Notwithstanding any controversy that I may have stirred up with that. But yes, delicious.
Excellent.
It follows my previous wines of the week, which have been the Ariolas. I think I drank that for the wine club. Sounds like I'm always drinking, doesn't it? That had a lot of cherry in it. And before that, it was the Alan. Oh, I can't remember what it's called now. Altano, the Symingtons. I'm looking over it because I've got some in the corner of the room here. The Altano Organic Red, which is an absolute bargain and delicious as well. That's had some really good reviews from people who I gave that to for a Christmas gift. So yeah, bathed in fantastic Portuguese reds at the moment. I'm not a big fan of Portuguese reds or red wine at all. It's not that I'm not a fan of Portuguese reds. It's just I'm not a big fan of red wine. But I think I'm being somewhat educated and changed.
Converted.
Yeah, certainly it's appropriate in the colder months. When I get in the kitchen and start cooking and I pour myself a little drop of red wine, it's a really nice way to feel like the evening's beginning. Oh, pardon me, a bit of a warmer as well. Ruby Port is a lovely drink in this weather. Maybe not so good the morning after. Yeah, it's the hangovers, isn't it, with port? And Carl, that's milk that you get. No, not Ariolas, Ariolas. I think, Peter, you're thinking of something else there. Be careful in the works fridge these days. Right, okay, over to you and the presidents. Can I show you these pictures from Portugal Weekly, Ben, as a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, okay, because our man George Branco has been up to his excellent work over on Substack, and I don't know if this helps in the background, but it's been narrowed down already, has it, to a few favourites? Is that right?
It has been narrowed. What I've done is there's currently 11 candidates, and right. we could do it. We could kind of do a deep dive into every party, every little liberal incentive, and all that. But we'd be here for hours on end. So what I've done tonight is I've narrowed it down to the 3 more popular choices at the moment. Yeah. Which are your AD, Aliança Democrática, which is kind of your centre-right parties, PS, which is your Partido Socialista, more centre-left, and the more controversial of the lot, Chega, as well. Those are kind of our top 3 contenders for these first round of elections. Why? Now, there's a reason why I'm saying first round of elections as well, because unless a party can secure an absolute majority, it will proceed to a second round where the top 2 candidates are chosen and the re-election will be applied with just those top 2 candidates. And
re-election, as in what? So there's going to be a first election on Sunday, but there might be another.
So there'll be, sorry, I don't know if I phrased that correct. There'll be a first election.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I'll be surprised if any of these parties can surpass 25%.
Okay.
Get 25% of the population behind them. But if no party secures an absolute majority, that being more than 50% of the population, what will happen is they'll take the top 2 results, and then there'll be another election with just those 2.
My goodness, right? Okay, a lot of work for electoral bureaucrats at the moment. And they've had a busy year already, haven't they? They've done every other kind of election with this to top it. And so, who are the top 3 in your view then at the moment as we stand?
So, starting from, let's go from left to right. We'll start with António José Seguro, who is representing PS here.
That's him, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be... Sorry, I keep having to zoom out and zoom in on what you're showing. I've only got one screen, unfortunately, something I'm looking to fix in the future. Ideally get one screen here, one screen here. But yes, that would be Mr. Seguro. No, sorry, that's not Seguro, is it? That's...
I beg your pardon. No, it is. That is Seguro. And Mensch is this chap here.
Mensch is below, okay.
Yeah, that's right. So that's the fella you're talking about there. It's just the way it's written here. The picture is underneath the text. So Seguro is here, Socialist Party member. since his youth. So that's him. Looks like a nice enough fella. What's your view?
Well, I'm not going to try put my view out there, but this is your traditional centre-left party.
I tried.
You tried to snare me there, but I haven't had that many drinks yet. So it's your typical centre-left party when it comes to property, and we are a real estate show, property show. After all, we do have to talk about property. They kind of have. I remember them advocating a lot for renters' rights here in Portugal, and they're kind of more focused on that sector of the market, rather than purchase itself. A good way, the way I'm judging them on how their approach to the property market is if you remember a few months ago, the government passed a housing package. So that was, the big talks about reducing EVA as well, reducing how landlords are taxed, renters' rights going up, and that whole packet. I'm going to be the way I'm judging them is how did these candidates respond to that? Because that's something that happened recently, and I think that's probably the best way we have of judging their response, their outlook on the property market at the moment.
And their popularity as well, of course. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it's also a good way of understanding, of course, each one of these candidates represents a party. So what is the PS's approach to the current situation, the situation at hand as well? And it seems to me at least that it's a lot more renters' rights focused, not so much being done in terms of landlords, in terms of licensing. There's very little comments as well. That is the general idea I'm getting from them. Moving on as well. So
left-leaning then, socialistic policies, perhaps not too much if you're an entrepreneur looking for some centrist or more sort of right-leaning entrepreneurial stuff, perhaps with this chap Seguro.
Yeah, I'd say this is a bit more, we're talking more about renters' rights, in essence, is what I'm trying to get across here as well, which is also something that needs to be talked about here in Portugal. Still, moving on. We have Luís Marques Mendes, who is AD, so Aliança Democrática. They are kind of a coalition between two centre-right parties here in Portugal. Now, this guy is a bit more... I remember a few comments on sort of PPP, so public-private projects as well. He wants more cohesion between shareholders in property and the public sector as well, which is ultimately a good thing. I remember easing on licensing too was a big thing for this party as well.
Okay.
Those are... Sorry, do you want to say something?
I just noted here, he left politics after losing, thanks to George Branco for this, subscribe to his Substack, Portugal Weekly, on Substack, of course. He left politics after losing the PSD leadership in 2007. So he is a bit of an old sort of veteran of Portuguese politics and worked for a law firm, as they all seem to do. They all have a law background, don't they, in politics in Portugal, or largely anyway. And as a political commentator, that's how you build a public profile in Portugal, being a pundit and being seen on the TV so people can get used to your face. And definitely used to this guy's face just recently. Marques Mendes said he wanted to be a president with experience, independence, and the capacity to form consensus. So a bit more coming to the centre then than our previous chap Seguro, it would appear.
Yeah, a bit more. I guess that's down to interpretation, really. It's down to what your perspective is of where do we think centrist policy lies. But I'd say it's a bit more, we've thrown the word about entrepreneurial. Perhaps this would be a more entrepreneurial approach to the current housing crisis here in Portugal, kind of incentivizing the private sector a bit more and, just incentivizing the private sector and funding PPPs as well.
Well, the government aren't cracking on, are they, with building public housing alone? So you do need something a little bit more imaginative than perhaps what's going on at the moment to make that happen, and so people can get some affordable housing here in Portugal. Okay, any more you want to say about him, or should we move on to the third pick?
Just to add on what you said there, I personally, maybe I've been a bit ignorant of this sector of the market, but personally I haven't heard of a lot of purely public-funded projects that are coming up for housing here in Portugal. I've heard of quite a few... public-private partnerships that are popping up, but not something that is 100%. This is funded purely by the state. This is funded, it's our control, it's our sort of social housing.
Yeah. Me neither. And I guess you'd have to be reading the Portuguese press fairly closely to find something of that kind, wouldn't you? And we look forward to hearing from John. Yeah, John Wood of Valwood. Looking forward to catching up with him and seeing how he's getting on with his affordable housing project. Have you heard anything from him?
We've been speaking behind the scenes, and I'm
Right,
sure
okay.
you reminded me as well. That's I have to send him a message after this show. That is something we have to do and get John back on here too, because his project is really. I love what he's doing. It's an awesome project, and I really believe in it a lot.
Agreed.
It's still.
Quick comment from Gary. Take no notice of how popular or successful Portuguese politicians are. Mr. Costa ended up with a nice little number in the EU, a bit like Mr. Blair. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to say we should feel sorry for the losers here. I think you're right, Gary. They're going to be okay, whether they win the presidency or not. And yeah, however unpopular they may be in office, they do tend to land jobs elsewhere, don't they? Some nice plum jobs as well. Certainly, Antonio Costa has got a good profile. As I think is he president of the EU currently, and he's up there with all the photos, all the glad handing and press junkets and so on of the top brass of the EU. He's up there, and so yeah, we certainly shouldn't feel sorry for him. And in fact, I think it's increased the resentment and bitterness towards him to see him in such a plum job for many Portuguese people. Right, who's our third then, Ben?
Right, our third one, and probably our more controversial one on the list, is André Ventura, leader of Chega.
Okay,
I'd say definitely probably the most controversial party in Portuguese politics at the moment. Yeah. I'd say, and one that's gained significant, as it seems to be the rhetoric across Europe and across the world at the moment. There seems to be a growing far right population of voters. What is Ventura's approach to politics? I remember him being quite positive about the package that was introduced recently. I say recently, we're talking about the package being passed around early December, so over a month ago now.
Yes, yeah. And on immigration as well. I mean, they were quite influential, weren't they, in their ideas that were, I guess, in a sort of Trumpian way, quite bold policies that they figured might get pulled back a little bit and refined by, or shaped once negotiated with the other parties. But yeah, not afraid to be controversial at all, is he?
No, exactly. His approach is also one of the main things, if I can say that, to his approach would be more residency control as well, allowing more control over who can come into Portugal, who can buy houses, what the prerequisites are, and kind of getting a tighter hold on the on demand.
Yeah. Interestingly here, George Branco is reporting, and synonymously, Chega and far right. It always seems to be reported that way. In 2019, became the first MP following a career as a football pundit and a run for the Loures City Council under the PSD banner. So formerly PSD, interestingly, he has continuously claimed he did not want to run for president, but made the move when he didn't see any candidates who measured up to his expectation. Ventura has made immigration, health and corruption the cornerstones of his campaign and wants to bury the two-party dominance. Now, populist policy. Who around the world doesn't want to see the two proverbial cheeks of the same backside dominating politics? But I suspect they didn't necessarily want to see a third cheek. I don't know if that's the right metaphor, quite in this shape, to mix my posterior metaphors up a bit too much there. In a debate with Gouvier Mello, he's another candidate, of course, in December, Ventura said, as president, he could mobilize the country to change the constitution. That's pretty bold, isn't it? One example was to allow chemical castration of paedophiles, claiming that he wasn't captive to a document there referring to the Constitution of Portugal. So are those, you think it's down to these three, do you? And this other chap is not in the running anymore. Is that what your analysis of the situation?
If we go by the latest polls, that chap has fallen a bit behind everyone else.
Right?
We're talking about everyone we've mentioned, so I'm going to try not to get into that, because I think once I step into the territory of why is that, I'm going to start putting my own personal opinions out there, and that's something I will try to avoid.
All right, fair enough.
Still, the top three that I mentioned here are kind of in the 19-20% currently.
All right. Okay. So maybe coming down to those three. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, of course, this is all speculative, and we are still a week out. Polls can change dramatically very quickly, but I reckon
do they, Ben? In your experience, do they change quite dramatically in Portuguese politics?
Well, depend. Also, my definition of dramatic is a change by 2%. So. not exactly like we're not talking about, oh, they've suddenly got 30% of the population on their side.
Yes. All right.
No, but in that sense of something could change by 1-2% in the coming weeks in the current polls. Yeah. And if we go by the polls, which admittedly not the best way to follow this situation, but I'm also not qualified enough to comment on.
No, fair enough. No, appreciate what you're putting forward there. On the matter of a potential Shager president, do you think that would be good for business? Because I think I've seen a lack. One assumes that right-leaning, far right, all the titles that the labels that go with Shager would suggest that it'll be a bit more about the free market and commerce and entrepreneurialism and more supportive. But I'm not aware of many policies. They seem to be bogged down in other areas of society rather than supporting small or medium-sized businesses, SMEs. Again, would you rather not speak to that?
I think you already know my answer to this question, Carl.
Right.
That is, I'm not going to give you a complete answer on that, unfortunately.
Right, okay.
Maybe if we meet in person off camera, I'm more than happy to talk about this. But
I'm interested to know. I don't know what. If anyone does know, pop it in the chat. There are people I know who've studied the Shaker manifesto, and it may well have something in there about business. But they are bogged down in other matters. It would appear, and being quite negative rather than proactive would be. I don't mind sticking my neck out and saying that. All very negative, whether you agree with it or not. It's all very sort of on a very negative footing, it would appear. Sorry, Ben, you.
Yeah, the manifesto is a bit pessimistic in that regard. Of like Portugal's in a bit of a situation, and what can here's our solution to fix it, which is mainly immigration centered.
Blaming people,
blaming exactly. Couldn't have said it better.
Okay. What are the current property hotspots in Portugal at the moment? I think Gary's glazing over with the politics. So let's go back to real estate and property. And I've got a nice one for you in Fundão, in the Castelo Branco district. But is this something you can answer?
Yeah, definitely. And if I'm permitted to answer it with a question, what are you looking for as a hotspot? Are you looking for somewhere with sort of exponential growth? Are you looking for guaranteed returns on a property? Because if you're looking for guaranteed returns, your Algarve, your Lisbon, your Porto, those won't let you down if you can afford to step into those markets as well. Central Portugal, admittedly, yes, a bit more volatile, but it's still very much a developing area at the moment. And there's plenty of opportunities out here by us, which also, on average, are a lot cheaper too.
Very good. Thank you for that. Almeida Allen. We've got an answer to that question. Shager's position on the economic policy and the free market. Shager presents itself as a party that is national, conservative, and liberal. In the classical sense, it's so confusing, the word liberal these days, isn't it? In terms of the economy, the party argues for less state control and bureaucracy. Shager wants the state to be reduced to its essential functions because it sees excessive regulation and government presence as harming economic freedom and economic dynamism. Shager also reduction of taxation. The party says the current tax burden is brute. Now, I think there's probably another part of this to come, but I'm going to finish that by probably suggesting brutal. What other words could that be the start of? Brutal, I would agree with. Who wouldn't know, to be fair? But Almeida, thank you for joining us. And if there is another part of that comment, please send it to us so that we can see how that ends there. Thank you very much indeed. Anything else you want to say about hotspots, Ben, before we move on to my featured property?
About hotspots, one that surprised me for this year, and I was there just recently, is Viseu at the moment. Viseu is one of the few markets in Portugal now, me saying this controversially, Viseu being one of the few markets in Portugal that last year actually saw a depreciation by about 12% from Q1 to Q4. But having looked at it recently and the amount of buildings that are being built there, again, very strong indicator of growth. The area's got a hospital in there too. There's a decent job market there for younger people as well. And like we mentioned, there's about 70,000 new applicants, new younger people buying homes in Portugal or applying for those IMT exemptions as well. So a growing market. I think Viseu is going to be on the up and up this year.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of hotspots, it's like one to watch, isn't it? If you're looking for somewhere interesting, unknown, and where you might get a bargain, if that's your definition of hotspot, Viseu is the place, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It was never going to be long until we got round to this. Okay, but let's move on. If you're looking to get away from politics, sorry, Ben, I haven't stopped you there by saying any more about hotspots or any further analysis.
No, really. So Central Portugal, Viseu, again, a bit more volatile, a bit more of a gamble, but there are, if you know the market and if you're confident in where you're putting your money or your skills in fixing up houses, whatever, then yeah, great place to put it. If you want the classic guaranteed return, not guaranteed, but next to guaranteed returns, because whenever you buy a house, it's always a gamble. Your Lisbon, your Porto, your Algarve, those are your classics. They'll never fail you.
All right. Talking of maybe being a bit cheesed off with politics and wanting to run to the hills, you could do worse than this. Now, Pure Portugal have been around for a long time in the Portuguese real estate market. And as I said, I'm looking forward to talking to Sophie, one of the founders, and finding out about how things have changed in Portugal since she first had this idea to help people buy dream homes, living the good life, basically, being a bit more self-sufficient, off-grid, that sort of criteria. And I think, would you say there's a growth in that market, Ben? You've got people coming to Portugal who want to live a quieter, more peaceful, and perhaps out of the city, a more rural existence. Are you seeing that going up or down at the moment, that sort of interest?
I see that going up, not just in Portugal. I think it's a bit of a global phenomenon as well. And it'd be really, I'm going to try and not get into this too much because I had a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine recently about a similar topic. But, in history, there's always kind of, the trends are we want to live in the city and then it moves to the countryside. And, you see it in literature, you see it in everything. We're kind of swinging back to a countryside rhetoric now. At least in my opinion, that's where we're going. But still, I'm going to try not get bogged down too much in that because that's a whole conversation for another time.
Let me do that. I think there is an appetite for running to the hills, and actually that's what I thought I was going to be doing when I first came to Portugal a long time ago. But I ended up getting distracted and I've ended up living near the seaside. And I'm not complaining; it's fantastic where I live, as you know. Having a great experience of it yourself, but I do, I've still got one eye on this, or thoughts in the back of my head about getting out of town and into the hills. This is a great way to do that if that's what floats your boat. Move-in ready, beautiful and unique renovated granite house with independent studio, garage, and 1.65 hectares in a thoughtfully designed plot here, nestled in the serene Beira Baja countryside. This turnkey home offers a harmonious blend of rustic Portuguese authenticity and modern living, and the land thrives year-round, even in summer, thanks to mineral-rich soil, so it's not going to get overheated by the sound of it, and thoughtful water management, perfect for those dreaming of a back-to-the-land lifestyle. That's what we're talking about, with sustainable gardening and or creative living. Quiet, serene location with abundant fruit orchards, water autonomy, fertile land, yes, and a unique house and studio. The land and house offer privacy and tranquility, yet remain connected, never isolated. There you go. Best of all worlds there. Total land of 1.65. One part of the area, 1 hectare, is fenced off, and the pine tree vegetation extension beyond that of 0.65 hectares. Easy access via a municipally maintained hard-packed earth road leading directly to the Quinta's main gate. Fantastic. The house is 150 square meters. There's an independent studio. You could do a bit of in the countryside Airbnb with that, couldn't you? Or have your friends come and stay with you. A garage of 50 meters squared if you want a workshop as well. Isn't that awesome? Total land is large enough to offer a diverse set of micro zones, yet remains manageable for those who simply want to enjoy nature. The 1 hectare fenced core is a gardener's dream, divided into thoughtfully designed sections for optimal use, including vineyard, evergreen garden, fertile, gentle slope, flat bottom valley. The entire fenced area has 2 gated entrances for easy access. That's probably to keep the wild boar out, isn't it? Another pest eating your lovely fruit that you're growing.
A delicious pest at that.
Yeah, true. If you can catch one.
A bit of javelin, lovely.
Pete can help with that, possibly. Cork oaks in there, young fruit trees of figs, almonds, cherries, chestnuts, and apricots. Fertile soil, grey water from the house and washing machine filters into 3 ponds, creating a mini oasis with aquatic and ornamental plants. Rainwater tanks, so rainwater collection, 2 outdoor taps, etc., etc. So there's a main house, a studio, and the garage, and there's your own water sources there. It's got electricity, of course, hot water, septic tank, excellent sun exposure, optic fiber. You've got fiber Wi-Fi out there as well. No major work needed. All systems are maintained and compliant. A growing international community of diverse nationalities nearby. Immediate neighbours are environmentally conscious and caring stewards of the land, speaking English, German, Portuguese, and Dutch. Unique bonus, the feral cats of Rapula. For me, that's not a bonus, but for some people, it is.
Not sure if we should be advertising that, but
if you're a mad cat lady or man, this might be right up your street. You could just go live out there with your cats, couldn't you?
All sorts of niche markets nowadays. You never know what appeals to people.
Do you know Fundao, Ben?
I've been a couple times. I can't say I quite like it. I like the cherries particularly.
Yeah, absolutely. And a great market on a Monday. I met Pete there, actually, Pete and Diane. Fundao, approximately 25 minutes. And the beautiful Gardenia Mountains nearby. Castelo Branco, 50 minutes away. Penamacor, 20 minutes. Covilhã, 40 minutes. Serra Estrela National Park, 1 hour away. Porto, 3 hours. Lisbon, 3 hours. And Madrid city centre, 4 hours. Several river and lake beaches within the area. That's pretty awesome. I'm going to put the link to it into the chat so you can find out more for yourself. How much? Did you see the price for this one, Ben?
I didn't know. How much was it going for?
What would you say? What would be your guess if I can put you on the spot?
It's always difficult to evaluate. For one, Fundao's a bit far away from me. I live in Alvázar, so for people who don't know where that is, it's kind of, if you can imagine, Tomar, Coimbra, smack bang in the middle. It's a bit far away from me. It's an area that I'm not entirely too familiar with, so knowing average price per square meter, things like that. But going off the fact that it's like a hectare of land, how many rooms was it? It was a...
how many rooms in the property? Actually, I can't remember. In the main house, let me have a look here. Ground floor, 2-story granite beauty, fully equipped kitchen. Second floor, loft, landing, additional room and expansive storage loft. I don't think it's big on bedrooms, is it? You've got the studio as well. It doesn't talk about bedrooms. It looks like this is a bit kind of open plan and flexible rather than more of a conventional home with, say, 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms. I can't see that information, but the link is in the chat for anybody who wants to find out what's over there.
So a very difficult thing to evaluate, especially when you don't know how many bedrooms it is.
How many millions would you say?
How many millions? A fair bit less than a million, I'd say.
It's 295,000 of the euros. That's not.
I was going to say about 160, if I'm being honest with you. That was going to be my guess. But to be fair, again, I don't know the number of bedrooms, and there's a lot of stuff that I'd have to take a look at Fundao to see what the market's like, what's demand like, how much time.
295k. 295k for all that I've spoken about there. Find it at pureportugal.co.uk. One of a kind. They're calling it there. Ben, anything in conclusion this evening? It's nice to be back in this rhythm. We'll see you every Monday evening, apart from when there's a wine club.
Apart from the first, yes.
Where we might see Ben on occasion anyway. Yeah. But anything else you want to... What are your hopes for people for 2026 here in Portugal when it comes to real estate?
When it comes to real estate, I'm quite optimistic. I'm seeing a lot of really good buildings coming out in the market, a lot of really interesting projects. Hopes for me personally, hope to sell as many of them as I can. Approach as many people as possible as well. But on a concluding note, thank you for doing the show with me, Carl. Thank you for giving me a platform to speak out on. Hopefully, we've managed to help a few people clarify a few things about the upcoming presidential election too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how that's going to affect the market.
And best way to get in touch with you, Ben, we need that information, don't we? If you want people to reach out to you, can I put your phone number in here, or should we put it? Let's put your contact details in the sleeve notes, as it were, because we need to make sure people can get in touch with you. You'd be excellent if people want to be represented by you. You'll be hustling on their behalf, whether you're finding somewhere or selling on their behalf. And thank you to Paul Rees, a mutual friend of ours. Good to see you, Paul, and we look forward to having you on the Good Morning Portugal show soon. So Ben's details will be in the sleeve notes, so you'll be able to find them below.
They'll be there shortly. I'll just send them to you right now. I can't believe I haven't sent them to you yet.
We need that sort of information, don't we?
Yeah, it's pretty important, isn't it?
Yeah, you can always get in touch with me on 913-590-303 and any of the comments on the Good Morning Portugal empire, and we'll get them to Ben. Any reaching out to Ben, we'll make sure that happens. Cheers, Ben. Enjoy the rest of your evening, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
Cheers. Bye.